Well, hello, everyone. Thank you all so very much for joining us. Today, we are going to recap Star Trek Discovery's penultimate episode, Lagrange Point.
Lagrange
Are you
point.
excited?
Yes.
Mhm.
Are you in the fields?
We don't sound excited. We are excited, man. Absolutely. What kind of question is that?
I don't know how I feel about him using that lens to photograph his
What? It's
Uh,
still,
computer.
Yeah,
still long,
they'll
that's
use
isn't
it
it?
for
come
whatever.
from that. No.
What's that? 100, like at 83 to 100.
Oh,
Wait, maybe don't do that
do
either.
20.
Maybe don't do that either.
That is not how lenses work, Will.
All right. So yes, we are all excited to bring you our review of Lagrange Point. And before we do that, bean footage.
Every other vote.
I mean, I just want to know what we're going to be ready. Oh, wait, we're going live.
Here we are. Welcome once again to Trekkers the Light.
Like, literally, my mic falls down just as we go live. Hi, everybody!
Why is that person not even moving behind you?
That's what you're paying attention to?
On a scale of 1 to 10.
Oh my god, no.
Love that baseball and the teacup, like clearly TNG DS9 fans. So.
This was a nice touch.
The moans.
The mo.
No, everybody, this is actually one of the main screenwriters for Prodigy, so we are super excited to hear from you. And
No one
also,
listen.
I'm a little embarrassed for being as critical.
Man, I really love that intro.
All right,
Again,
so
every time that's so self-serving. Will, I'm sorry, Jermaine, but that's never not going to be funny to me.
Right?
before we get started, Marie, why don't you give us a recap?
Sure. So Lagrange point. By the way, Lagrange points are real. They are part of celestial mechanics, and it represents the point of equilibrium for a small mass object between two competing large mass objects, which is why this episode is titled that way.
Did you have to have an object, or is it just a specific point between the two objects?
Well, you have to have the two objects to
No,
have the
you-
specific.
No, you have to have the two objects, but you don't need. Are you saying that the Lagrange point is the actual third object, or just the point between?
It's
the
the
two
point of
objects?
equilibrium that the smaller mass object reaches, or doesn't reach, as the case may be.
Okay.
And any more on that, and that's well beyond anything I know about physics. So, yeah, Lagrange point. Basically, this is the penultimate episode, as Jermaine said. So we've got a lot of setup for what's going to happen at the end. Saru is back. Saru comes back from the outer planets, and he hooks back up with Tarina, and it's terribly sweet. The problem. Goodness, I'm sorry. As you can tell, I have a little bit of a frog in my throat, so it's a little harder to speak. Anyway, so Discovery has jumped away from the archive and now is in need of repairs, but they have to make the repairs very quickly because Maul and her Breen dreadnought know exactly where they need to go. So before everything is quite finished, Discovery jumps to the location. The only problem is that the dreadnought also arrives. And the dreadnought can actually get to, because of the problem with the navigation system, the dreadnought can actually get to the item faster than Discovery can. So Maul has them bring it on board, put it in a shuttle bay, because apparently it's, I don't know, some sort of mystic barrel. Thank you. Thank you, designers. They bring in the mystic barrel. The Breen crack it open, and there's nothing but a green light. And we start losing scientists to the green light. And Maul doesn't know exactly what's happening, but she wants to find out more because, again, where she's obsessed with bringing Locke back, because Maul has exactly two modes: competent teenager or competent leader and surly teenager. That's it.
Right.
Burnham, on the other hand, realizes that this is a bad thing, so she basically concocts an insane plan to pull a Star Wars, go in through the exhaust port, infiltrate the dreadnought, and one team with two teams, and one team is going to go bring down the shield so Discovery can beam everybody away, and the other team is going to go put a transporter lock on the Mystic Barrel of Doom. This doesn't go as well as she imagines. Shocker. Mostly because Burnham forgets that security exists.
Mm-hmm.
And that really bugged me, but we'll get to that. They get made. Maul rushes down and proceeds to threaten them. It doesn't quite work because during the whole threatening thing, Burnham has open comms, so she's communicating with Discovery and basically, in code, tells Rayner to do something even crazier. And that is ram Discovery through the shields into the shuttle bay, and that way beam everybody off. And shockingly, they're largely successful, except that Maul takes the opportunity to jump into the green light to see whatever's there, which of course means Burnham has to. So that's where we leave the crew of the Discovery. Back at Federation HQ, Saru has returned, hooks back up with Tarina. They meet with President Rillick. Rillick is like, so there's a major problem, and that problem is Primarch Tahal. Y'all might remember her as the Tyrant of Kellerun. So she's a problem, like a big problem. And they're basically doing everything they possibly can to stall her, because she is on her way to depose Maul and take over the late unlamented Primarch Rune's forces off his dreadnought to secure her own bid for the throne of the Imperium. And if she gets there, it's real bad. Like real bad.
Right.
Because the Breen are going to get everything, and there's nothing the Federation can really do because they are somewhat outgunned. So Saru volunteers, because Tahal isn't taking her calls, Saru volunteers to take a shuttle and go out and meet her and try to stall. And that's really about where we are with the Lagrange point.
Pretty much. Who all knew Burnham was going to jump through that portal?
Anyone with a brain?
So, she's got to go too, I guess.
I mean, of course she has. She's the chosen one. She is this season's Galahad going after the Grail.
And then Book had to look at her like, what did you do that for? I would have never expected that from you.
Yeah, but Book is also sort of processing the fact that Burnham has more or less confessed her love to him again at the most inopportune moment.
Like, not inappropriate, you're right. Inopportune. It's like, I was like, hey, now's not the time, guys.
But let's be real, that is so very on brand for Discovery, though.
Yeah.
Like, so on brand. Just so on brand. So he's kind of reeling, and of course he's now convinced that they have this metaphysical connection, because he's screaming at Rayner, she's not dead! I know it! Aight, boo. Let's see what happens.
Right.
So we've got a lot of relationship updates in this particular episode, right? Like, in addition to the Book and Burnham thing, we have Saru being able to turn the tables a little bit on Tarina by having his I'm neither a damsel nor in distress moment, which I thought was amazing, because that paralleled nicely the moment that they had earlier in the season.
I'm a little bothered that... I'm sorry, go ahead, keep going.
We also have, like, the space dads watching their chick leave the nest.
Oh, yeah.
To go hack the Breen. I mean, not everybody does it that way, but sure, Adira, you do you, babe. You do you.
I'm glad Adira went there and did Adira stuff and didn't end up being some, like, badass combat person at the end when it was necessary.
Yeah, we actually get a chance to see Reese. Reese do badass things,
which I could expect from him, you know. But I was really hoping she didn't do anything or do anything good or well, and she didn't. So I was happy about that. They didn't.
We obviously have the incredibly unhealthy relationship between Maul and Locke, because Maul's affection for Locke is okay.
It's like that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like she's constantly saying. I mean, oh god, the actress must get really tired of this because it's the same sort of tune over and over. Life's not worth living as Locke is here, which is one of the reasons I say,
Well,
still be
girl,
a teenager.
you ain't been in love then.
I'm like, adults will be like, take a breath. I mean, it's so Romeo and Juliet. But Romeo and Juliet, like what a lot of people don't understand, was never meant to be represented as a love story. Romeo and Juliet is meant as a parable of a problematic relationship and why you should not do that shit.
Right.
So that's very much what I feel like is going on with Ball and Locke, and it's a little disturbing, honestly. What else do we have? Y'all, come on, I have no voice. Help.
Okay. We got a lot of stuff. First of all, let's talk about how this started last episode, but how Mal has just like taken over the whole Breen ship. First of all, there's a lot of space in this spaceship. And that's really weird to me. Like the amount of space on the inside of the ship is just mind-blowing.
Well, they also have a lot of Breen in the ship, and so it kind of makes sense.
Well, I'm talking about stadium size space. I'm not talking about the 2 dimensions they're walking on. I'm talking about from the floor to the ceiling of just space.
I think that's actually the point. I think what the set designers are doing. I think what the set designers are doing is they're contrasting the Breen ship with these large open spaces.
You don't want to say hi? They're cool. I swear to God, they're cool.
I don't think anybody has ever described me as cool in the history of my life, but I'll take it.
Oh my god.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, what's going on?
Nothing much. How are y'all?
We're good.
Right.
So what is your take on the political stability in the universe and the next 900? Yeah.
Absolutely. You know what? No, I'm not doing this. Y'all have a good one. What?
And there we have Will Wofford traumatizing his family. So awesome. Anyway, what I was going to say is I think that's deliberately done because Discovery is much more like claustrophobic spaces, and the Dreadnought is much bigger, so that we get a sense of the actual difference in scale.
Well, we didn't think that when Discovery first came out. We're like, whoa, look how big it is on the inside. I remember
thinking it was really small and dark, but
I remember thinking they built those corridors specifically for Saru. Like the hallways were unusually large. The space between turbo lifts is unusually huge. I remember that.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
So yeah. So what are you doing?
Keith, what do you got? And you're muted, my dude.
You got no sound.
Nope.
Oh, there we go. We hear you loud and clear now.
So then let me ask you all a question. When Saru decides that he is going to basically choose discovery over safety, right? So he's looking at his lover, his betrothed. He's going to be married soon, but he chooses to take this task of meeting the Breen, which could be perilous for himself.
I believe the term is suicide mission, actually.
Yeah. What was your take on that?
I feel like that's part of his job. I mean, he's in Starfleet, and it's not a safe place to be.
He's an ambassador,
and they understand that. I think they understand that they have jobs to do.
I mean,
they have meanings.
Don't misunderstand the role of an ambassador. Ambassadors are not. An ambassadorship is not an inherently safe job.
No, it's not. However,
and frequently they are
in that particular situation. Tarina basically said, "I'll come up with a list." Basically, she knew Saru was going to jump into the fray, but she interjected and she was like, "I'll come up with a list so you can choose someone to go to stand in your stead." But Saru was just like, "Hey, look, these are my people."
She did that because she doubted his ability to make the decision not based on emotion, but just based on whether it was a good idea or a good thing to do, like logically. Um, it was still something that he could do as part of his job, and I think both of them understand that they're never going to put anything that's happening between them and their relationship above their duty to Starfleet. Their duty comes first.
You know, I think that's part of it, but I also think that she was legitimately concerned that he was going to go make the choices that he made. But in all honesty, she wouldn't have been. I mean, he wouldn't be Saru if he didn't do this, because Saru's right. He's kind of the best person to do this. That's on hand that we know of at Federation headquarters right now.
And first of all, and last of all, I'm kind of sick. Not sick of it. I'm glad to see Saru. I'm glad he's in the show, but for him to just play this melodrama part in this show, kind of is like, he's so much more useful. You know,
Keith?
I don't want to say useful, but I'd like to see him on the ship doing ship stuff and not playing
Ship stuff.
ship stuff, man. Get up there and do ship stuff instead of, you know, his relationship and him being ambassador. He hasn't even done that much ambassador stuff.
Well, I mean, he's an ambassador to 3 Federation. Well, are they Federation planets?
They're non-Federation planets. He's actually been on the border of Breen space. I actually disagree. I think what he's doing is incredibly important thematically, because especially if you look at it in the context of Discovery's overarching emphasis on the formation of connection and the formation of community. This season is very much about forming those romantic connections as one way to do this. Also, family connections, which we see with Adira and the Space Dads. So what Saru is doing and what Tarina is doing is they are showing us how to have a loving and supportive relationship between 2 different species, which is kind of amazing to begin with. But also still be able to be true to themselves and to do the things that they need to do. And because once he says, hey, I've got to go do this, she accepts it. And she's like, all right, cool. You do
Keith?
you.
Oh, Keith, your thoughts?
I keep on trying to figure something to say, and I keep on coming up blank. So I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe I just watched the episode too early this morning, and it's not clicking in my head right now. But yeah, I'm as far as Saru doing the ambassador stuff. It's been off screen. He's been on these missions. He represents. I think they said 5 planets that are outside Federation but near Breen space. So obviously he's had a lot to do with that, and it's of course accommodating Doug Jones' busy schedule at the time he was promoting Hocus Pocus 2 when they were filming the previous episodes. But I mean, as far as where Saru is now, remember we had him as captain in season 3, and he fit into that role so well. But they always intended that Burnham would take over as captain, so they had to do something with Saru. And basically, he just kind of free floated in last season. I mean, he was a captain, but he was first officer. So now this is finding him something higher to do. We just haven't had a chance to really see it on screen.
I think he was fine as
To be
first
fair,
officer
this is
too,
becoming
though.
something of a theme for Disco, by the way. Captains turning into first officers.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jason, you go.
Oh, speaking of which, what do you think about the captain's chair?
About Rayner not wanting to sit in it?
Precisely.
I don't know. That was kind of an annoyingly, like, just a tick at this point.
I don't know. I kind of
Really?
I kind of get it. I think it actually did mean something. Like it was. I don't know if it was a thorn for him because he wasn't the captain, and it still kind of bothered him. Or
I got that vibe a little bit. Yeah.
Or if it was more, was it respect for him that he wasn't sitting in it?
Yeah, I got that. I got it as a vibe that he's respecting Burnham's authority, because that respect has been hard won throughout the course of the season, right?
Yep.
So I think that there was that. And also, if he takes the helm or if he takes the con, he has to admit that he's part of the crew. And that has very much been this arc that we've been following, Rayner. Because, I mean, even if he weren't coming from this already problematic situation where he's been demoted, he's coming aboard Discovery, which has a crew that has been together across 2 different centuries.
Mm-hmm.
They are from a very different culture than the Federation he grew up with.
Well, no, everybody on the bridge is new, so.
Well, yeah.
right. I have real questions about that. I'm like, where is Owo?
Yeah.
Well, I keep I mean, obviously by now we're not going to see either one of them, but I think you weren't here on the show, Marie. We were talking about how much we actually missed those 2 ladies in the chairs, like, and there's these strangers there that we know nothing about.
Although
don't forget Bryce.
Well, we know something about Bryce, and I'm glad to see Bryce get more screen time.
No, Bryce wasn't on.
Well,
this.
he's not.
But he wasn't on the bridge though.
No, Bryce has been gone since last season.
Oh, you're talking about Bryce. I'm thinking Reese. I'm sorry.
I have to admit, I do really.
He was on 1 episode. Maybe
I really like.
Oh, that's right. He was in the time episode when they went back to season 1.
I have to admit, I do like the fact that Jemison is on there as a really cool call out to TNG and actual astronaut, Dr. Mae Jemison.
Yes.
On this show?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's her name. Like, her name is literally, there was a, one of the, was she a transporter officer? I feel like she was.
Yeah, she was a transporter chief. Lieutenant Palmer was the name of her character, but it was actual astronaut Mae Jemison.
Yeah.
On this show?
No, this was in TNG.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about this show. That's why.
No, but on this, one of the new crew members on the bridge is Lieutenant Jemison. So named after
I got you.
That astronaut. So.
Which is a really, really cool kind of throwback and an acknowledgement of this woman's tireless efforts at being an ambassador for STEM to underserved communities.
I thought it's kind of strange. These people put this pod there at this Lagrange point, and it's been there for 800 years and just hasn't moved.
I don't even know that it's been here for 800 years. I think it's much older.
Well, they said that the material the duranium was 800 years old.
Okay.
Well, the whole point of leaving it there is because when you're in this Lagrange point, I'm sorry, I'm from Louisiana. It's pronounced Lagrange.
Lagrange.
You continue to call it Lagrange.
Lagrange.
Did I slip up? I know it's supposed to be Lagrange, but did I slip up?
Well, I was talking about others.
It's just a pronunciation.
So anyway, so when something is there in that point, it doesn't really move. It doesn't take a lot of energy to make it move. So it could stay there. I'm not going to say indefinitely, but it could stay there for quite some time. And that was the whole point. The point was that it could stay there. But in order for you to get there, you would have to be working with other people in order to get it.
I get the idea, but I don't know. I don't know. Allowing hundreds and hundreds of years means that stable is kind of.
It was a great way to bring in science, man. Yeah. This is science fiction.
And also, doesn't Tilly at some point like vaguely hint that maybe those black holes aren't naturally occurring?
Yeah. Well, she makes the hint that they seem to like almost predate the universe.
Right.
I mean,
so it's entirely possible. It's entirely possible that it wasn't the scientists that put that. It's entirely possible that the scientists made the mystic barrel of doom to surround this international gateway. Although we do know that there was one more obstacle left.
Right.
But 800 years ago, we know we didn't have dimensional gateways like that, or interdimensional gateways, or whatever it is.
And this is just a question.
Unless you're Iconian.
But they surprised black holes haven't spun into each other by then, you know? I don't know. Whatever.
Not if they're artificially created by the progenitors.
And this is just a question. 800 years ago, would TNG era, would those ships be able to get away from a black hole in the way that
it depends on how close you are to it and what your trajectory is. I mean,
what did they say that they were in the accretion disk?
Yeah.
Right.
And we've seen Star Trek ships across all series encounter black holes and survive.
Right.
But 2.
Well, I think the point of that is that you have to have somebody who's really good at math.
And that's really what I was saying earlier when I said, like, you have to have a whole lot of people working with you, and so that 9 times out of 10 it wouldn't be just one race, and that was kind of like the whole point of the progenitors, right? Like all of you all need to come together.
Well, it's a accretion disk. You notice you can always see it. So at any point where you can see something, you can generally probably get out of that point. But beyond that, if you go further in and you pass the event horizon, at that point it becomes more of a huge problem once you pass through the accretion disk and you're that much closer.
I am not an astrophysicist, so I am not going to opine.
Well, just from what we've seen in like original series, definitely you would have seen them. In fact, I think there was references of them falling into a star or a quantum singularity. In fact, original series, I think they said it was quantum singularity. So it's what you people used to call a black hole.
Yes.
So we had that bit of.
That was from the original.
That was the original series, yeah. But
and also remember. Oh, sorry, Keith, go.
No, by Next Generation, we had them seeing the starships getting closer to these massive gravitational things and being able to pull off from them. Like in the case of 2 episodes Next Generation, you saw the Enterprise get very close to a star and not get sucked into the gravitational well of the star. So.
And also they had a Romulan, and Romulan warbirds were actually powered by artificially created singularities. So if we're going to get real nerdy about it, I'm going to toss it up to that guy.
What guy?
The Romulan.
Oh.
So I want to change things for just a bit. Let's take a look at this real quick.
Nice pants.
Yeah, I like the way.
Did you mean to get a crotch shot? I have real questions.
Right. Is this William? Is William on the stick?
Right.
He might be on the well, I mean, and then I just love this. Like the entire time that they were filming them, it was just like a shot of them in the Breen helmet. Like I don't know why I loved it, but
the Iron Man shot.
It is.
We saw a lot of Robert Downey Jr. doing that the past.
Except occasionally you can see right here.
I love
look
this.
right here. You can actually see the black skull cap they made Blue Del Barrio wear.
Well, they all wore it.
I didn't notice it,
but nobody else it really shows up. But for them, it does.
I didn't notice it till Blue had it on, and I was like, "Oh yeah, they all must have that on." And then I noticed it on everybody.
But the moment, like all of them, even Book said, "Aye, Captain." It was just like it was like a great moment. Like we trust you. We're gonna do whatever it is that you want us to do. And I thought that was great.
So what was weird was
there was a shout out of appreciation for David Ajala anyway.
Yeah. I love that his first instinct
Jermaine's like, yes.
The first instinct in trying to distract the guard was to flirt with them all.
Right.
And we found out that Breen like oil baths. And y'all, I have so many questions because we know that the other form of the Breen is mostly liquid or gelatinous. And so like are they less dense than oil? Like, is that why it has to be an oil bath? This is literally popping in my head, like after watching Book like awkwardly flirt with this Breen.
That is not what was popping in my head, Marie.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
To be fair, I suspect your love life is better than mine. So this is the sort of thing that occurs.
Well, I was just thinking during a lot of the scenes when they were walking around the ship with the helmets on, I'm like, okay, how much? As we were talking last week about the budget, Jermaine, how many of those shots were actually the stand-ins walking around?
No, I can tell Michael Burnham's walk.
Yeah, I can
tell her when she's walking. That one person I can pick out.
I mean, I'm just sitting here going, I would hate to be Sonequa Martin Green trying to squeeze all those braids into a helmet.
If you noticed, you never saw the braids until in the scene where they took the helmet off. The braids were already there, and then they hit the button.
Before she put the helmet on, the braids.
Yeah, they were still there, and you can see the helmet forming around the hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
when,
none of the
when
scenes.
she turned with the helmet on, the braids were in the helmet somehow.
Because as someone who had a lot of hair at one point, I remember having to think about like the sheer mass that you had to navigate. So like I can only imagine.
Well, who knows if she wears those braids every day? She might put those in just for the show.
Oh, just for the show. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but like I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine that you would go through the agony of having them braided
Every
in.
day.
No, I don't think they
Every
have them
day.
braided in. It might even just be a whole wig. Like it doesn't even.
I mean, that's also true. That's also possible.
You know, they just slip it on and they slip it off and put the helmet on. But
No, well, I'm not gonna say it.
they
I don't know. I
they
have
put
real
wigs on
questions.
women all the time on TV, constantly.
I have real questions.
But I did notice that the hair was there already when they took the helmet off. I was like,
I also want to know how much they could see out of the Breen helmets.
right? It
Not
was
much.
like
Couldn't have been that much.
Yeah.
Well, they
Also-
wouldn't have been. I mean, the actors wouldn't have been able to see through the light bar.
oh yeah, it's got to be kind of weird. Well, maybe I don't know.
I mean,
don't know
they're
if it's-
kicking. I mean, they're kicking butt and taking names by being able to, like, to stride around. But I also kind of wonder if that's not why the Breen tech was basically a glorified egg timer.
egg timer.
Yeah, like when she's twisting the dials, and I kind of wonder if that's just basically in deference to the fact that she couldn't see squat.
And also, I raised this question last maybe not last time, a couple of times ago. The environmental why is
Inside
the
the suit?
environment suited for humans and not suited for brains on the ship? Before we said, okay, maybe it's a trade ship and the cargo hold, so different people come in there. But on the bridge and everywhere else on the ship, why are the Breen needing to wear these suits to breathe? And because they pulled that one hose out the back, the dude's neck, and he was like, "Oh!" First of all,
I
they
thought
took
that
their
was
helmets
weird
off
because
before. Didn't they
I
take
did
their
not
helmets
get
off?
the impression, unless, and here's this, because we saw Locke take the helmet off and convert himself into a solid. I don't know. Maybe the Breen are somewhat descended from changelings. Who knows?
Yeah, but they took their helmet off before, and they were in both their states.
And then he became solid, and he could breathe. So I'm wondering if maybe they can't quite
But
breathe
why
as
not?
effectively
Why
in
not be
their
able to
liquid
breathe?
gelatin state. Also, I think we're thinking too deeply into this.
Not really. I think being able to there's a reason why you have spacesuits, and there's a reason we're not thinking too deeply because everybody has their own environmental situation on their own.
Yeah, but that's not why the Breen have that particular outfit. No, they have that particular outfit because, I mean, Tig Notaro's character Jet Reno says it. Like, I mean, the point they're supposed to be in like the all black uniforms and jack boots, right? Like they're supposed to be terrifying. For the same reason stormtroopers are. Like
yeah,
in
but
Star Wars.
stormtroopers can breathe their own.
Yeah, but I don't think. But again, I don't think this is anything to do with like the make believe biology of the Breen, because again, just FYI, Jason, those are people in those suits.
I'm just
no. I actually I follow Jason. Like I understand exactly what Jason is saying.
No, I
What
do
he's saying is
too.
when you're on your ship, you shouldn't have to wear those suits. I get it.
Right, I do too. But what I'm saying,
well, you can wear the suit. If you have to wear the suit, you can wear the suit. But you shouldn't need it to breathe. That's all I'm saying. It shouldn't be. We shouldn't be able to breathe on their ships. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but I think the point there is again visual storytelling, and not biological fidelity.
Well,
because the Breen have to look a certain way. Also, remember what the Breen looked like in TNG.
Yeah.
Right. So we know that they favor this particular get-up. Or at least this evolved version of that get-up, right? Because they're supposed to be faceless. I mean, I think they are supposed to fall into that same sort of category that stormtroopers do.
Well, I will. First of all, this is Star Trek and not Star Wars, and I have different expectations between these two models.
But the visual iconography that they're harkening back to is the same.
Yeah, right. I get the idea of wanting to show the suits. I'm not arguing that. Or they're in uniform. That's part of their uniform.
But even beyond that, like the Breen are very keen on not being necessarily individualized.
Right.
There's something really terrifying about facing a faceless enemy, right?
It's still a military. We do that in the military here. We don't want anybody individualized.
Okay, so look, Marie, I want you to think about it like this, and it's not that. Actually, I agree with you, Marie, but I just want you to see what he's. And it's not.
No, I do.
He's saying, but it's really just to say, hey, look, if we're all on the same ship, and we don't expect anyone else to be on the ship, why are we all wearing?
No, I understand completely the argument, and I think it's ridiculous, and I think he's right. I think this is, but I also think this is a deliberate choice,
right,
in favor of an aesthetic as opposed to biological fidelity.
Got it. I agree with you.
Yeah, I do. If things were actually done properly, then Maul should be the one that's in the suit, and while the Breen should be walking around in casual wear.
Well, like I said, they could wear the suits just because they are in the military. But the one that she pulled his tube and he was like, oh, suffocating. That's the thing that got me. It's like he can't breathe.
I don't know what that's about. I don't know. I hate to say this because these people are very clearly talented at all the things that they do, but that sequence did not feel well thought out to me.
The guards outside the room scene.
The guards outside the room scene, yeah. One, Burnham seemed rather shocked that there was a security checkpoint.
Well,
which
I understand that being shocked by that, but I didn't understand why you would think that yours
I'm gonna need you to explain why that's not shocking.
Well, I don't know, because you're going into the unknown. You don't know what.
Absolutely, which is all the more reason to have security.
Right.
I like that it was them having to dip their head to the scanner rather than like a hand scanner or a not.
That was cool.
Yeah,
that was cool.
But yeah, the idea that their replicated uniforms would get them through the security scanner, and that was, come on.
Then why have a scanner if it works for anybody?
Yeah.
I mean, I actually had this problem with Labyrinth too, because those. Yes, the Tribble also hates it. Hear how much the Tribble hates it. I had this problem with Labyrinth too, because there were aspects of that episode that required Burnham to be dumber than she is.
Yeah.
The entire conceit of her not being able to figure out what it was that she was supposed to do was painful. And so now we're having a little bit of that here as well.
And then you were supposed to fill out the paperwork. I did fill out the paperwork. You were supposed to turn it in for me. Why is there paperwork? Why are they talking about paperwork?
That is literally the only thing that was believable about that whole thing, because paperwork is eternal.
Yeah.
Well, they have no idea what they have to do to get security and nothing like that. So that's what I thought was kind of.
No. You cannot tell me that a hierarchical society does not have a strict procedure to grant clearance. No.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
They're still using the term paperwork, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's more for us rather than suiting the needs of the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Although we have a lot of really old loan words about things that we don't use anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
That's the rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Right? We don't measure things with our thumbs anymore. We have rulers. And they had rulers then too, but they were not as widespread or widely available, right? So it's entirely possible that that's just an archaic reference.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I think Keith's right. That's more for us. And also we're kind of losing the forest for the trees at this point.
Right. Nitpicking a little bit.
Smidge.
And then the door opens and nobody is there. Nobody's in there doing anything.
I mean, right? I guess maybe the thought is that you wouldn't have gotten through
the security
on the outside. I don't know.
But they go in there and then there are people there.
Going back to your earlier point, it is a huge room, and so maybe
I think that has more to do with it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think they're doing what a lot of security professionals, like security procedures do, which is they front load it, and then once you've passed various checkpoints, they're not quite as heavy. At least that's my experience. But beyond that, I kind of want to get back to like talking a little bit about the characterization we've got here. We have that amazing look between Book and Burnham. And can we hate on Maul for a minute?
Sure.
Yeah, she's.
I am so frustrated with that character, and it's not the actress's fault by any stretch of the imagination. She's just given so little to work with in terms of who she's allowed to be. Like, I'm serious when I say she has two modes. She can be competent leader / courier and surly teenager. Like,
well, what she can be right now is very acute because she's not having new relationships with new people, really. She has like one relationship with one Breen, and that relationship is just asking him what's going on. And she doesn't have any extra new motivation to do anything differently than she's already doing. So there's no real growth for her.
And how much do you chalk up with the fact that she's kind of in mourning still for the loss of Locke? And
right. And she's not.
I don't even think she's in mourning. I don't even think that she's in mourning. I think she is so determined to bring Locke back that she's more than capable of losing sight of whatever. But I think there's a way to play that, and I think there's a way to couch that in a much more mature manner than's happening with Maul. Mm-hmm. And part of that's because they always put her in an opportunity, like in this position where she has to talk about her daddy issues before she talks about Locke.
Well, she's the same. I mean, who was the character in Picard season 3? The woman that was on the ship.
You gotta narrow it down, but
dude, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she basically had one goal, and she was pretty one-dimensional as well. Like the first half of season 3. Yes. So she's kind of.
That was terrible as well.
She's almost. She's kind of that character who has one dimension that she can go to.
But Vadic, I mean, Vadic was still like there was something more adult about her like obsession.
Yeah,
Maul is literally screaming the same thing over and over again, which is life's not worth living without Locke.
Well,
so I choose to look at it like this. So
in a minute, she's gonna bust out her Lisa Frank Trapper Keeper.
So when you think about Calypso, right? So we kind of know a little bit about the future of Discovery, at least the ship, right? Just a little. I'm sorry?
We think. Yeah.
We think, right. And I wonder if... Okay, so Maul's character, she's got to do what she's got to do, but they can't stray too far from what it is that they want us to think and believe about the ship and or its crew. And so they got to keep it tight. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
no,
they can't stray too far from what needs to happen. And what needs to happen is at least the ship will remain, and
why is the ship remaining? Why is the ship
honestly
remaining?
that presupposes
because it remained in Calypso.
Yeah, but that presupposes that the events in Calypso don't take place like 45 years in the future as well, right? Where Calypso gets marooned. And that also presupposes that Calypso takes place in the same timeline and is not actually the timeline where the Breen destroy everything.
I guess I was asking a different question. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I love Calypso. Mm-hmm. I love Calypso, and I would love to see Aldous Hodge come back. Let me sign my name to that petition, like right meow. But I don't know that that's really like. I mean, I'm sure they're going to try to tie it in because they're big on tying up.
They don't need to,
and they said they would in some way.
I don't really want them to. Just leave it.
I don't either. I like the idea of Calypso being like this kind of loosey goosey.
Yeah, because whatever they try to tie in is not going to be enough, and you're going to want more. They're better to spend their energy and time focusing on Discovery season 5 episode last.
So we've got about 15 minutes left. So why don't we talk about what loose ends we think are going to get tied up, what we don't see coming
Well,
out.
I was kind of hoping that on this show we would actually find the object, and then the next show would be what that meant, the repercussions, and how that works out throughout the galaxy and all that. But I guess they're not going to do that. They're going to obviously push it to the last. So probably the last half hour, 40. What do you think? 40 minutes into it until they actually find the thing, and spend a lot less time on the falling action of the story. Is that called the falling action?
Denouement.
Well, they teased the fact that she would be seeing Saru's wedding. So we've got to assume that that's going to happen in this upcoming episode. Don't exactly know how.
I have this real concern that Maul and Locke are going to do like a Decker and Ilea.
Who are they?
Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Decker and Ilea are the ones that fused with V'ger.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have this real fear that that's what's going to happen here.
Depending on what the object is.
Or we're gonna get like the real like full on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade effect, and Locke is gonna be brought back to life, but he's not gonna be able to leave like a certain boundary.
He's not gonna remember anything. Who are you? Oh, I was asking one question. I was asking like, why? I guess this isn't what you asked, Marie, but why was the Dreadnought still there for the whole episode to allow all this? I think it would have been more interesting if they. Well, this is another thing that comes into place. If they left and went to this transwarp conduit, why nobody in Federation has found these things? I don't know. That's a different story. But obviously, they exist, and the Breen have them. It would have been a lot more interesting if they had to chase after them as they went towards the transwarp conduit that they came in. But for some reason, they're just sitting there.
I think the logic is that
when they know Discovery,
they don't think anybody else knows where they are.
Actually, they don't know Discovery's coming.
Right, they don't know Discovery's already there. In fact, they don't even know Discovery exists.
Right, they think it's dead.
And then as soon as Rayner reveals that Discovery exists, Maul is more than willing to send the Dreadnought to warp.
Right.
So I think that's that answer. And it works out. It also works out nicely because then we don't have to worry about spending extra money on like the warp drive effects.
And then the whole pod got crushed and opened, and now the portal was just sitting there in space.
That was the question that I had. Like, I didn't understand how all of a sudden it hit a ship. Okay, you have to imagine that in space debris would have hit it. So why all of a sudden, or is it because people are inside, and that is why?
You have to imagine that at a black hole, this is my saying. This doesn't make sense. It's sitting there for all this time at the Lagrange point between two black holes. So much stuff had to have come by that point and hit it.
Unless the debris had gotten caught in the gravity wells of the two different.
But it's coming in so many different angles. That's the thing about black holes is it has to do with what angle you come in at, depending on which will let you know what angle you can come out at.
Not an astrophysicist. I got nothing.
Well, you got to think things come in at 360-degree angles in a three-dimensional sphere. So things are coming in at every angle.
So we should legit petition Landon Ashworth to answer those questions while he's doing his conversations with a 4-year-old. I got nothing there. I think I'm also going to the special hell, because when I saw like the thing, I just am like, why do we have a sphincter in space? I appreciate how Jermaine is just like, I'm ashamed of you.
Nagila's gonna see that and say, "Ooh."
Anyway, to go there.
Back to what you were saying, Marie.
It was just such a weird visual. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why it's standing there. I hope we find out next episode.
Hope it doesn't get sucked in by the black hole.
It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere.
The biggest question that I had, it wasn't Okay, so the Federation knew that. What's her name? To An or whatever. I don't remember. The other not the Dreadnought, but the other
Tahal.
Primarch.
The Breen Primarch.
Tahal.
Yeah. So if the Federation knew, how is it that Maul's ship or Maul's Dreadnought didn't know? Like that was the thing that I was just like, how is it that the Federation would know that that ship, Tahal's ship, is trying to intercept them, but they didn't know?
Because if anybody has spies giving out information, pretty sure they've got more spies than the Federation has.
But in Breen space,
that's what I'm saying.
So I think the Federation has more spies. I think Primarch Rune's spies aren't talking to him right now. But it's because he's dead.
Well, first of all,
and because like I suspect like I also suspect that the individual who would have been in charge of those isn't going to reveal themselves to Maul. And Maul is not checking. Maul does not care about the rest of the Breen Imperium. She gives zero Fs about that. So I suspect she's not. I mean, even if they had the capability of finding that out, I don't think she's looking. I think their entire focus is now on getting the Scion back.
But I think I know how it could happen, William, is because the Federation includes a lot of planets. A lot of planets in the Alpha and Beta quadrant, and you got the Breen over here, I think, in the Beta quadrant. So all you'd have to do is have another planet way out somewhere else, closer to Breen space, that is Federation or has Federation people on it that can see that she is leaving Breen space and going somewhere. So you know what I mean? It's like another planet could have told the Federation that this ship is on the move.
And remember, Tahal is somewhat infamous across the galaxy.
Right.
She was not kind to the planet she occupied.
So we're gonna have another bad green woman at the end of the show.
Maybe. And honestly, that's even if Tahal becomes a player. Like, and it may be that something happens that we don't have to have Tahal. That Tahal ends up being an off-screen issue. And I think there's going to be so much that we have to do next episode that I don't know where they're going to fit her in.
You know what would have been interesting is how we have in this century of Discovery, we have obviously the Cardassians and the Bajorans have maybe made amends. I don't know. They gotten together, and then we had the Vulcans and the Romulans have gotten together. It would have been nice to see a Federation planet get together with a enemy of the Federation, like the Breen and the, I don't know who's the Federation person. I don't know. Betazoids got together. You know what I mean? And they're an enemy. It'd be nice to see at least one friend of the Federation get together with an enemy of the Federation. And
I guess my question is, where would you have squeezed that in, and how would you have known?
Oh, I would have took
because
out the
we
whole
already know that we have Orion candidates in Starfleet Academy.
Mm-hmm. But that's Orion coming to us. That's still a merging of Federation people or whatever for the good.
And given
I'm talking about emerging for the bad.
And given the level of xenophobia exhibited by the Breen,
maybe that's why it can't happen.
I don't.
Which you would think the Breen would have more territory by now if that was the case.
That's what I've always said.
And they have so much firepower. They should have so much territory right now.
There's a complete difference between acquiring territory and keeping it.
Yes.
But it might have a whole lot to do with the fact that there's so much infighting within the Breen. So
true. I mean, there's that. We know very little about the Breen before this season of Discovery, in all fairness. But I mean, it's entirely. I mean, again, like keeping territory is a lot different than acquiring that territory.
Yes.
Just look at and we know that occupation by the Breen is a very unpleasant affair. If Rayner's experience is anything to go by. So I imagine that the Breen have adopted a strategy of only taking as much as they can handle and then moving. And also, there's the burn too. So the burn would have affected them, as far as we know.
For some reason, I thought Keith, and I'm probably wrong, but for some reason, I thought Keith said that they weren't as affected as everyone else.
Well, we don't know what they were doing at the time or anything about them, so
I don't know.
It's kind of, they're using transwarp conduits. Maybe they were all in transwarp conduits at the time. And maybe that's outside of regular space. I don't know.
Just in time, Keith comes back.
Yeah. So, Keith, do you have any news for us?
I hopefully I don't get magically disconnected and kicked into the 18th century again. Yes, there is a lot of news this week actually. First, the big news: Holly Hunter has been cast as the captain / commandant of or chancellor of Starfleet Academy, the new series that will begin filming soon and be out probably by 2026.
Maybe she'll have some grandma's sweet peach tea.
Okay.
You have to see you never saw Superman? Okay. She was in Batman vs Superman. But anyway, there you go.
Oh, right. The senator. Yeah, that horrible
I got to admit,
movie.
I blocked that experience from my mind for my own sanity.
Yeah, that was one of those movies where I almost turned it off halfway through, and I'm glad I didn't because it got better when Gal Gadot showed up, but otherwise. But no, she's the first announced cast member of the Starfleet Academy series, and we found that she'll be the lead. How much of that?
Oh, the lead.
Well, as far as we are aware, I mean, she does have a history of Badawi television as well as movies, and of course is an Academy Award winner. So we do know that Starfleet Academy is to be a spin-off of Discovery, so it's set in the 32nd century. So hoping that Tilly and maybe others from Discovery will make their way over to that, but for now, this is the only announced cast. Then on the bad news spectrum, we had Terry. I'm blanking on his last name. The showrunner for season 3 of Picard, who was expected to be the showrunner of Vitalis. Yes, thank you. Has been hired by Marvel to showrun a new Vision series, picking up off of where they left Vision at the end of WandaVision, the first of their Disney Plus series that launched a couple years ago. So he is now going to be developing that. And so any hopes of him running a Star Trek Legacy anytime in the next year or two are less unlikely. Then also the announcement that Simon Kinberg, who produced a number of the X-Men movies, starting with X-Men United, the X2 X-Men United, will be the producer of the Star Trek Origin movie that they are now working on. That's the one that's being directed by the same person who did the USS Callister episode of Black Mirror, and written by Seth Grahame-Smith, the author of Pride and Prejudice and Zombies and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Which was a sleeper hit, I tell you.
Yes. So they're now saying that this is a Starfleet origin movie and about first contact between humans and alien races. So that led a lot of people to say, "Oh, got a great idea for a title. Perhaps they should call it Star Trek First Contact." Oh wait, they've done that.
I mean, right? Like we had a Starfleet origin story. It's called Enterprise.
Yeah.
And we had First Contact in,
First Contact. Yep.
And we kind of had a Star Trek TOS origin story,
right,
with J.J. Abrams.
Well, this is supposed to be set, decades before the 2009 and the Kelvin Burst movie. So, yeah, I'm not really feeling this. I used to be one of those people who wanted them to do movies and stories about how we got there, and now I'm thinking that they're going to that well a few times too often.
Well, if you
especially since we've opened up this new century with Discovery,
yes.
Well, I don't think we've opened that up. I think it exists on its own, right? Like I don't see. Or are you looking to see more Star Trek come out of that century? Like,
I would love to see more Star Trek come out of that century.
do you want to see Star Trek leave off from Picard?
Yeah,
Both.
absolutely.
Can't we do both?
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, there's no reason not to.
Yeah,
and there's no reason we can't fill in a little bit between the end of the original series movies and Next Generation, which is what Section 31 purportedly will be doing, considering it has a character from that time period in it. So,
and frankly, I'd love to see post Picard. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
how do we get to this point where everything falls apart? Is it just the burn, or are we dealing with some of the sort of bureaucratic inertia that we saw in Picard season 1?
Yeah.
What about post Voyager?
Well, that's Picard. That's
no, between Picard and Voyager and Picard, there's
Lower Decks.
Big space.
That's Lower Decks.
No, that's not much. That's not a big space. That's about 7 or 8 years.
That's all you need for a show.
And that's where Lower Decks is operating right now, and Prodigy as well.
Yes.
Didn't you say Lower Decks was canceled?
Yes, but we have one more season, and they have now said that because of the strike, there was a delay in them completing it. So, whereas previous seasons of Lower Decks have premiered in August, it looks like we're looking at October probably for Lower Decks season 5. And Netflix released their list of what's coming out in June, and Prodigy season 2 is not on it. So the big hope was that with Discovery finishing up next week, that we would jump into Prodigy season 2. But no, it looks like we're going to have at least, unless Netflix is going to surprise everybody and release it anyway, like they did in France. It doesn't look like we're going to be getting Prodigy till July at the earliest. And they can keep on saying, the showrunners and Aaron Walke and others keep on saying it's worth the wait because it's so good. But we've been waiting a long while now, and we would like it, please. And so they say in the meantime, just keep rewatching season 1.
I mean, which, yes, but also, yeah, come on. Yeah. Haven't we suffered enough?
Yeah.
Seriously, haven't we suffered enough? You know, from the end of Enterprise to the beginning of Discovery. Like, come on, people.
Well, there's usually like a month between shows, right?
No, we've had. In fact, when they started to try to do this year-round Star Trek thing, which is now dead, it was a case of the season finale of one show would air on the same night as the season premiere of the other.
Yeah, it was a nightmare to cover. Don't you remember?
Yeah, we went straight from Picard to Discovery, straight from Discovery to Strange New Worlds. Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm glad they're spacing it out a little bit better, but it would just I don't know. I'm going to miss the year-round Star Trek phenomenon.
They got us so hyped for it, and now the plans for that is just all falling apart.
I guess we're canceling our Paramount membership for the next month. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, if you're not watching, Gentlemen in Moscow just ended as well. So, yeah, I mean, if you have nothing else on the platform, not that we would advocate that because we love and support CBS, Paramount, and whatever organization.
I
love
David. Or you on David Letterman or something?
There's Keith stepping into Saru's hoof boots.
But speaking of Strange New Worlds season 3 did wrap filming today. So they have now finished filming all the main episodes. Now there is some pickup shots that still need to be done, and of course there's probably going to be some reshots.
And some ADR probably.
Yes. And we are expecting that early 2025 to get season 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say the rest is all editing, and that's
takes
a while.
CGI post-production.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, with that giant AR wall, they're having to do less of that with Strange New Worlds, which is really cool when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I feel like that is that harder to shoot with that. I feel like it's harder to shoot, like to story, because you have to storyboard the wall and storyboard the.
I tell you what,
actors at the same time.
I tell you what. One day we're gonna get Anson Mount and we're gonna ask him.
Okay, he can ride in on a horse.
Sure,
he rides horses.
In other news, it looks like Star Trek 3 is returning to theaters. A special re-release on June 14th. I saw the poster for today. So Search for Spock coming back.
Do we need that really?
Well, they did a re-release of the motion picture that was actually pretty good.
All I know is, like, I feel like this is an Ian Malcolm moment. Like, we think so much about can we? We don't really think about should we.
Yeah, there's that. For those that have been keeping up with Master Replicas and them selling off all of the items from Eagle Moss, they are losing their contract with CBS as of June 15th. So they are doing all kinds of specials right now. Like this week, it's buy 3 TOS chips, get the 4th one half off. Or I'm not sure of the exact deal. I didn't look, but because I've spent way too much money on that already. But they are trying to burn through the last of their inventory. But they are going to continue to be making Star Trek stuff after the 15th. It's just their deal to release the starships is going to end.
Ooh,
but they've already started moving on to other things like towels, and they have their own version of the Moopsie. This isn't a Master Replica's Moopsie, but they have their own version that's sold out within a day of them releasing it. So that's continuing to go.
Do they have a Starfleet headquarters?
No, because basically the stuff they were selling was the stuff that Eagle Moss made, and so it didn't get to Discovery Season 3. It didn't get to, the latest Picard Season 3.
Basically, they bought a warehouse.
Yeah.
Right.
And so if it hadn't been made before the warehouse purchase, then they didn't get it. And that includes Starfleet HQ, which is a shame because that is a gorgeous design.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can wear it around your neck.
Especially if they did it right, where you could actually separate the different decks and take it apart like we saw at the end of Season 4.
Yeah.
You know what's weird? I haven't even noticed the nacelles not being connected to the ship anymore. Like, I don't even think that process is in my brain when I see the show.
Well, they don't do as many shots of the ship in flight lately, so we haven't really noticed it as much.
Oh. Hey, before we... Oh, I'm sorry, you got more news.
Oh, yeah, I got more news. The top 10 rankings for the weekend of April 22nd to the 28th, that's when the episode Face the Strange came out. Discovery actually rose to number 8 on the ratings for that, so this goes continuing to be in the top 10 on streaming ratings. Let's see what else we're going to have. Kimberg.
That was a fun episode.
And there have been a lot of videos being released of the cast members saying what their favorite episodes were, favorite episodes to work on, favorite episodes to watch. So those are available on YouTube for Discovery.
Of this season or of the whole show?
Of the whole show. And I saw Blue Del Barrio is reuniting with Ian Alexander for a movie that they are making together. It just announced today. I'm not seeing it showing up on the list there, but
wait, which one's Ian Alexander? Is that Gray?
Gray.
Yes.
Yes. So Gray and Adira are going to continue working together outside of Star Trek.
Okay.
All right, we're way over time now.
So. Oh, well, I just wanted to say, does anybody have any idea what they think the final product is going to be of what the progenitors have for us? What's in the portal? What are they going to?
It's a box of Legos.
I mean, if there would be something that was life itself, it would legit be Lego. So that's fair. I suspect we're going to see something very similar to what we saw in the chase, and it's not going to be an actual object. It's not going to be something that they're going to have access to, because again, the point of Grail quests is not the Grail so much as the transformation that takes place over the course of the Grail quest. So I suspect that's what's going to happen. But we are certainly going to be here next week. We certainly hope everybody watching is going to be here next week.
One last thing before we go, I do have one little quibble that I shared earlier. Today is May 23rd, and May 23rd, 1994 was the day All Good Things aired, the final episode of Next Generation.
Oh,
May 23rd, 2001 was the day Endgame aired, the final episode of Voyager. So we had on one day, you had the end of TNG and Voyager, and here Discovery's going to miss it by 1 week. They couldn't have timed that better, so you had 3 series ending on May 23rd.
I don't think they knew, Keith.
Yeah, obviously not.
I don't think they did the research.
And by the way, everyone missed Cisco Day yesterday. It's the second annual of the Cisco Day.
I could have shaved my head.
All right, with that great shame, beautiful bean footage.
Yeah.
Wait, Jason, on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious are you being right now? I gotta know.
I'm serious, dude. You got
like 10 out of 10 serious, or picking on Michael serious? Which one?
There is no temperature in space. It's not cold.
What are you serious?
Okay, wait.
Who is? Oh dear God! It just got
because you
better.
said his name.
Welcome to the party, Michael.
No, that is not how we're going to end the episode because Keith actually has like a legitimate news update. He knows shit, and we should possibly like convey that knowledge.
That's my favorite line. He knows shit.
It's just like a black and red mound. It's like.
Why are you describing yourself?
What the hell?
Hello from man.
Hey, Virgil.
Hey,
Virgil.
welcome.
Hello, Virgil. Welcome. Who are you?
Who?